Middlekauff! Heavy!
Hightower!
All right, we got a little juice. We got coaching moves happening. We got 2 hires on one Sunday. And right now we've got Pebble Beach is winding down. The Pro Bowl is over. Just endless circles going on Fox right now, John. I'm watching some NASCAR, the Clash at the Coliseum. I think it's a quarter-mile track, so I'm locked in on that. And if you're watching on YouTube Live, great to have you. If you're listening to the podcast, great to have you. After the fact, if you're watching after the fact, great to have you. Mike McDaniel just got hired as the Dolphins coach moments ago.
Mike Jones. I wonder if Hightower got a little too aggressive with the job market. He could have, played the two against each other and have Kyle, who knows, had like 3 people bidding for his services, guy.
You're saying he could have forced his way to the Dolphins.
I'm just saying he could have had multiple general managers bidding for his services, and that $1 million paycheck contract that I'm sure that's the going rate for special teams. I don't think people realize 7 figures. What if he could have got 1.2? No state income tax. Miami, Florida.
Crazy that the Bears stole him from the Niners, John. Shanahan has to be reeling today.
Well, Albert Breer wrote, respected assistant, and someone forwarded me. I refused to click on the article. Mike Florio wrote, steal for the Bears.
Steal?
Yeah.
I mean,
I might have made that up, but no, he said something. I think steal's the wrong word. Maybe it was, I don't know, but it was something a little outrageous, the comment. It was basically like the agent text. He just copy and pasted it.
Austin says, we got a photo for those of you listening of Mike McDaniel. Sunglasses. This is back when he was on the field. Miami had to find the most serious McDaniel photo there is. We got a lot to talk about. Is he taking...
Was he in the booth all year?
I don't know. I feel like a lot of the videos I saw were of him in the booth. Yes.
I definitely don't remember seeing him on the sideline.
If you were Shanahan, you would want him in the booth, right?
Yeah.
Eye in the sky. He can see the same stuff you can see from the field.
Saw a lot of Hightower, though, the guy. A lot of Hightower.
Saw a lot of Hightower. John, before we go any further, let's tell the people. First of all, great to have everybody. Super Bowl week is here. We appreciate you. We appreciate you. We appreciate your subscriptions on the podcast. We appreciate your subscriptions on YouTube. We appreciate your likes on YouTube. We appreciate when you share this content with other people. Hashtag grassroots growth. We appreciate when you, what is it called? Patronize our sponsors? Because patronize is like a mean thing, but then it's also...
Yeah, like Patreon when you pay for the use. Yeah, just go use our sponsors. That's how we... That's the best way to support us.
This show brought to you in part by MyBookie.ag, promo code HAM and the number 1. MyBookie.ag, promo code HAM and the number 1, where, our season at MyBookie was kind of like this Clash at the Coliseum, a track that had ended up us with going circles in a circle and back to where we started. Right now, the Rams, a 4.5-point favorite in Super Bowl.
It's actually when you log in, it's -4.
Down to 4. I should start logging in. MyBookie.ag, promo code HAM and the number 1 will then match that first deposit dollar for dollar up to $1,000. You can also decline the bonus. If you accept the bonus, you have to bet the full amount before you can withdraw funds. But either way, HAM won. Let them know we sent you. You want some speed skating updates, John, or you want to talk more about the Super Bowl?
I just do not. You won't find John Middlekauff watching 1 second of the Olympics. Not because I don't, enjoy watching. I just will not. It just bores me. I mean, it does nothing for me in the winter. But betting on this game, mybookie.ag, promo code HAM1. I think the lock of the week, I'm all in Rams. I like the Rams like 38-17, 38-20. I love them as a 4-point favorite. To me, that number's about 4 or 5 points off. I like the Rams.
Home game for whatever that's worth.
They don't have to get on a plane. It's you got to give them some. Just all their wives and girlfriends already live there. I mean,
they live there.
It's a little less crazy.
Your own locker room? Think about that. Just your own locker room.
Are you sure, though? I think are the Bengals the home team?
But there's no way the Rams give them their locker room. No chance.
Well, I think Well, it's just based on the AFC, NFC. You don't give anything. I think one team, it just alternates, kind of like.
But I'm sure the Rams locker room is nicer than the other locker room, right?
Well, I know, but that it's not based on who. It's just based on the AFC or NFC.
But what I'm saying is, I'm just saying it's not about a home or road. It's just we have our locker room, and then there's another locker room for other people to use.
Yeah, but the NFL takes it over, and I'm pretty sure. Again, I might have misread this, but it's the AFC's the home team. Could be wrong.
Well, and my point is, it shouldn't be about a home or road. It's just Rams locker room. I should get if they don't get their own locker room, that's insane.
Well, because it's not a Rams home game. It's the.
But
NFL.
I'm not saying it's not a Ram. It's not a home locker room. It's just a locker room.
I know, it's shitty, but I'm pretty sure that the Bengals are technically the home team. So the Bengals will be in their locker room.
That's insane.
I know.
That's insane. Kind of makes me like the Rams a little bit less. But
didn't Tampa host the Super Bowl last year? I wasn't.
They did.
So it's like been back-to-back teams in the NFC got to play in their home arena, even though, stadium. The Super Bowl is not your typical event, right? It's very, very corporate. It's it's already the most expensive seat ever.
But I agree. That's why these other things matter more than like crowd noise.
True. I don't think the locker room is that big a deal. Could be a little jarring, I guess, if you've been playing there for a couple years. But again, it's not. You're not the home or away team.
Oh, I get it. But I'm just like, there's our locker room, and then there's another locker room. So how did this season go as we lead up to the Super Bowl and we decide what we're going to do here? Sounds like put it all on the Rams, John. We started with $150 each.
Yeah.
That kitty, as some would call it, built to over 4,000 or right around 4,000.
I think we peaked at like 4,200.
4,200. Yeah. At that moment in time, we thought, maybe we could buy Super Bowl tickets off our winnings.
We peaked twice. We did it during the season, and then we did again going into the NFC and AFC championship game.
Yeah.
Now we got like $950 in there, I think.
We had Chiefs in the points, Niners money line, and Niners and the points, Chiefs money line parlay last week. So those are three different bets. And then we all know how that ended up.
Bad.
So that was
$3,000.
Those were $3,000. Those were $1,000 each. So what do we have left now in the old?
My bookie's been acting weird when I've been trying to sign in. I think it's somewhere between $900 and $950.
Okay, so we should put all of that on the Rams.
Yes.
Minus four.
That's what I think. Now, if you want to bet I'm not. I believe to my core the Rams are going to kill him.
Okay, well then that's what we got to do.
But I've also believed the Bengals were going to get killed by the Chiefs, and they got Joe Montana Jr.
My Bengals pick is more out of what I want to. I want to root for Burrow because I do think he's Joe Montana Jr. I think everything about him. The more I watch the Montana doc, the more Burrow I see. I think that's the comp. But then we can wait. We can just we gotta use this, John. We got to use this. Our domiciles and not our hearticiles.
Take the emotion out of it, guy. Belichick Walsh style.
You can also use the promo code HAM at DraftKings. DraftKings promo code HAM. We should probably do a waste management game this week and a Super Bowl game this week in the Haberman Middlekauff DraftKings League.
I'm in for whatever.
No matter what you want to participate in, though, you go to DraftKings and use the code HAM to sign up.
Yep, the stage is set, guy. Super Bowl 56. You can get in on the big game, the official daily fantasy partner of Super Bowl 56. New customers get a free shot at $1 million top prize. Big cash prizes as the stars go for the NFL biggest prize. Play daily fantasy is simple. You get $50K. You build your lineup. We'll put a couple games out this week. Free shot at $1 million top prize. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable. Very easy to deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. Download the DraftKings app now. Use the promo code HAM. Free shot at $1 million top prize with your first deposit. That's promo code HAM for a free shot to become a millionaire, guy. A millionaire during the NFL's big game. Get in on the action only at DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of Super Bowl 56. Minimum $5 deposit required. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details.
All right, John, let's start with the breaking news of the day. Mike McDaniel hired as the head football coach of the Miami Dolphins. Who would have seen this one coming 6 months ago, right? Even 3 months ago, as Mike McDaniel's press conferences started to get a little more attention, there became this conversation. This guy's clearly smart. This guy's clearly likable. This guy coaches for Shanahan, so he's going to have a shot one day. I mean, what could the odds have been if you would posted Mike McDaniel's going to be a head coach in 2022 a year ago.
To me, the craziest part about Mike McDaniel becoming a head coach is when Kyle first arrived, it was kind of like a tandem. Like he had a backcourt of these two little minions that were just supposed kind of offensive geniuses. It was LaFleur's brother and then Mike McDaniel. And I would say that LaFleur's brother became much more of a household name because of what Matt was doing in Green Bay, right? So we're like, I bet LaFleur might just become a head coach. And remember, part of the deal when he became the head coach is they blocked him. And then Mike McDaniel, they said was a little quirky and his press conference was funny. You're like, he's probably not going to get a head coaching job. Is he going to become a coordinator? Who even knows? Kyle loved him. They're clearly paying him a lot of money. But if you would have said a couple years ago who's going to be a coach quicker, I would have said Mike LaFleur, who is now Robert Saleh's offensive coordinator, that you would say might be a year away from getting shit canned if they have another terrible year on offense. And McDaniel, who just laid low, didn't call the plays, let Kyle be the kind of the maestro, yet clearly, and this is part of football, a guy like that is doing things behind the scenes that these guys swear by. Juszczyk told us the guy's a mad genius in the running game, which Kyle literally is known as a genius in the running game, and McDaniel's a run game guy. So it's not shocking today because the momentum had been leaning this way, right? It came down to two guys. It was him and Kellen Moore, and it kind of felt like McDaniel. We'll get into Anthony Lynn being hired a little bit later, but the moment he was hired, it kind of was like, well, Kyle's kind of got to reload the cupboard because that'd be back-to-back years of losing LaFleur and McDaniel. That's a pretty big deal.
I think what's crazy probably in some way is that if I just said Kyle Shanahan's key right-hand offensive right-hand man, right, is a head coach, that would shock nobody. It's actually, in some ways, kind of shocking that this is shocking. And I think maybe part of the reason is that we hadn't heard a lot from Mike McDaniel up until this year. Part of the reason is I think probably his press conferences, because they're so quirky, they're not like football guy necessarily vibes that you get from him.
Even though he did play college football, in the Ivy League, right?
It's I'm just saying, when you really try and think about like why is it so stunning, it shouldn't be. Everybody that knows McVay puts his name in their press release, right? When they get hired. Kevin O'Connell just got a job. LaFleur, we know the Washington football team. This guy started as a ball boy driving out to, was it Northern Colorado football practices when he was a kid on his bike to go see Mike Shanahan's Broncos. And Mike Shanahan eventually made him a ball boy. I read Mayoko's article. I think Mayoko's article's old, but I read it on Saturday about kind of Mike McDaniel's start. If you just said Kyle Shanahan's right-hand man on offense gets a head coaching job, no one would blink an eye.
No.
You would not think twice about it. Part of what's wild, he's never called plays. Never called plays, right? Because he's Kyle's OC. As Kyle's OC, you don't actually call plays. Kyle calls the plays.
A lot of Andy's guys never truly call plays. Bieniemy does now, but remember, Nagy didn't, Doug Peterson didn't. LaFleur.
Did Frank Reich call plays in Philly?
No, he did not.
He was Frank Reich, but
I think he had before with the Chargers, I think. But now thinking back, Mike McCoy, who pretty sure Mike McCoy was an offensive guy.
He was because he was Peyton Manning's OC.
Yeah, for a year. So I don't know if he did in San Diego either. Sirianni had never called plays. It's not that abnormal anymore. Just because of how many. McVay,
or was Jay Gruden calling plays?
Jay let him call plays, I think, for a year or two. So, LaFleur, who's in Green Bay, now he left McVay to go to Tennessee for 1 year. But remember, their offense was pretty terrible, and it turns out that it might have been, Mariota. Clearly, they wanted to pivot off that, and they've been much better since they got Tannehill. But it's not as abnormal as it used to be, I would say, when you are working for the offensive play caller, right?
Yeah.
When you are working for, it used to happen with Bill Walsh. You watch that Montana documentary. A lot of those guys, Bill was the guy fucking dialing him up. Holmgren was sitting right next to him, though he became, I guess he got the opportunity once Walsh left and Seifert named him the offensive coordinator. But I guess my point is, though, and I bet Holmgren would say this, how much you learn when you are literally the right-hand guy and he's depending on you for what many consider offensive geniuses, whether that be McVay, whether that be Kyle, whether that be Walsh or Andy, right? Or all the guys that coached under Holmgren. When Andy Reid got hired in Philadelphia, and I'm not comparing Mike McDaniel to Andy Reid, I'm just saying he had never been a coordinator. And a big reason is the Eagles, but them and Belichick love studies more than any fucking people you'll ever meet. They had done a study for like the last 20 years of if being a coordinator translates to head coaching success. And the study just plainly said no. It does not. And clearly, we see coordinators get hired. We've seen the last couple years these coordinators get hired. Half of them are going to suck. Special teams, defense, or offense. It doesn't matter. So this notion, Andy Reid had never called plays. At the NFL level, maybe he had been a co-coordinator in his younger days in college. But it's not, to me, a prerequisite to be leading men. Because clearly, I think anyone that had been around Mike McDaniel, whether it be Kyle or the players, would say, this guy's offensive knowledge, especially if you got like a 10-year vet who had been several places, would be just as good as anyone I've ever been around, right? Because that's the thing with Mike. He's a fucking genius.
I think when we talk about guys having not called plays, we're actually not talking about the play calling. We're talking about the game management. Remember Sean McVay's first year? Why is Sean sitting over here on the bench not paying attention to the game? I think that's part of the question. I have less doubt that Mike McDaniel can call plays. The question is, how does he manage a game while he's also calling plays? I would imagine he's going to call plays, right? Is he going to just skip it entirely?
I would guess, yes.
Johnny on the stream said, if you're Mike LaFleur, wouldn't you just try to go back to San Francisco and jump ship with the Jets? Not a terrible thought.
Not a bad idea.
Not a bad idea. But
could you Matt, is Aaron leaving you? Because if he is, I'm not going to jump to you. I'm going to go there.
Yeah, maybe I'll go to Denver. But this is, to me, the most
Kyle's going to have some return customers. I'll promise you that.
He will. He will. The thing with Shanahan, we'll get to Shanahan, is he is the water source for all the plants that feed, right? So he loses coaches, but he's the main water source here.
Well, I think that what's so powerful about him and Sean is they've immediately become Andy Reid. Have they not? Because thing of just people, you go there, you shoot like a fucking rocket ship to the top. Kevin O'Connell, good-looking guy, had been kind of in the mix.
I mean, he'd been a quarterback, right?
Yeah,
like Jack Taylor's been a quarterback.
He'd been a third-round pick to New England, but he'd never really played, lifetime backup, but got into coaching. His life changed when he got involved with Sean McVay. I mean, it changed. The LaFleur and McDaniels' career changed when they got involved with Shanahan.
I would say that the difference probably, right, is that McDaniel had been with Kyle for over a decade.
I think for 15 years.
Like, if anybody's been close to the water source.
But he even goes back before Kyle goes to his dad, right?
Goes to Mike. Yeah, I mean, he was on the Texan staff in 06, 07, 08. That was with Kyle, right?
But I'm saying I think that thing where he got involved with Mike when he would go as a high school kid led to an internship with the Denver Broncos, I think when he had graduated college, and the relationship with the family. He benefited from just God having some things out of your control. Being born in Denver, Mike Shanahan's in Denver. I mean, that was kind of unique.
Yeah. But my point is, have any of these guys been as long tenured with the guy that they kind of branch off of?
I mean, probably
none
not.
of McVay's guys could have been.
No. Well, a lot of McVay guys come from Kyle, right?
Or Mike
came from Kyle.
Mike should get some credit for what happened in Washington, but yeah.
Raheem Morse is now, that's a Shanahan guy.
What was Raheem? Was he in Washington?
Well, he's technically a Gruden guy.
He was a head coach and then went to Washington, or Washington was before?
Well, what happened was he was an assistant coach. Remember, like with the Tomlin thing with under John Gruden, and then when John got shit canned in Tampa, they named him the interim head coach, and then I think they liked him, and then they named him the head coach, and then he ended up getting fired relatively quick. But
that was pre-Commanders.
Pre-Commanders, yeah. And I think what happened is Kyle, who was on the staff as a young guy, remember McVay had the same role. I bet Raheem was pretty young too, and they hit it off, and they've just been buddies. I mean, I think when you're in your mid-20s, you're not making any money. Whoever else is on the staff at the mid-20s, if the guy's not a douchebag, you just become lifelong friends with him, right? I mean, I know I'm lifelong friends with 3 or 4 of the scouts that we were all 24, 25, 26, not making much money, right? And we all could talk shit about the people above us. That's a huge part of it.
Yeah. Grinding together on a Friday night.
But part of this is just the randomness of like, wherever your first job is, who are you going to be around? And it kind of changed for some of these guys. Now, I also think where McDaniel, Kyle, when he went to work for Kubiak as an assistant coach, that wasn't your normal just like, I'm working for this guy. I don't know him. Like it's like family. It's like working for your cousin or whatever. So when he's recommending guys to bring in, think of the guys that came in on the Houston staff, right? Saleh, old LaFleur, and McDaniel. Like Kyle had a lot of juice / Mike to get to Gary Kubiak to allow. Like Gary could have brought in whoever he wanted. He brought in all the Shanahan crew,
Right.
which changed all these guys' lives. Guy, they're all multimillionaires. Every single one of them. Multi-million. I mean, Kyle's probably the richest. He's been a head coach as longest, and he's had several contract extensions. Robert Saleh's $30-40 million contract. LaFleur's making probably $2 million a year. Other LaFleur in Green Bay making $7-8 million a year. I would guess McDaniel minimum $5.5 million. I mean, that's just the going rate for head coaches.
You think Mike's gonna get $5.5 million? He's getting $30 million from the Dolphins.
Fuck yeah! What do you think the going rate is for an NFL coach?
4.5.
This ain't the Mountain West, man.
Well, I know it's not, but who's the lowest paid coach in the league?
Who that probably was David Culley last year.
What was he making?
I'd guess 5. That's just I mean, it's just a going. There are industry standards for lawsuits.
Well, I understand. I mean, he was making $22 million in the last 3. So yeah, maybe. I mean,
I do think that Pelissaro was a lie because that makes
it's hard to know what that was. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
I'm telling you, this is not college. The minimum, Tom Sula, 7-8 years ago was making 4. I just think
wasn't Del Rio's deal like 3.5 initially?
But again, you're talking
wasn't it very low? No, I know. I think the thing that, like, if I were going to argue your point, not even argue,
Zach Taylor might be, a $4 or $5 million coach.
I wonder how much was Mike willing to walk away from the job? I do think I think 2 is a positive for him in this job, in that I think not a bad quarterback, but like a quarterback that people are down on can work really well in your favor if you're a person in Mike McDaniel's situation, because everyone's given up on the possibility that Tua is a star.
I think the average person thinks he sucks. That's what
Tua does not like make or break Mike McDaniel's career, right? Like if Tua flames out, no one's putting that on Mike McDaniel.
I think
but if Tua can look like a starter,
don't you think the easiest landing spot is just like, I get a year with Daniel Jones, I got a year with Tua. It's not even really on my record. Like, I didn't pick him or draft him. He's already a couple years in, so everyone already has their preconceived narrative about the player.
When you draft a guy, you have to make him a star. But when he's somebody else's guy that half the league has given up on, I think Mike McDaniel, I mean, this could be his sort of fingerprint here if he can turn Tua into a solid quarterback. And you could argue Tua, now a few years removed from a hip injury that's pretty devastating. And, maybe he was somewhat limited. Maybe that injury had longer effects. The way they pulled him in and out of the lineup. Who was calling? What was their offensive staff last year?
Well, Flores had like 3 offensive coordinators in 2 years.
They had like Eric Studsville and George Godsey and Eric Studsville were their co-OCs, and Charlie Fry was their quarterback's coach.
Well, they're Waddle's good. Their wide receivers and Gesicki are good. So they got 2 playmakers. Their running backs are not good. And their O-line really sucks. Like, that's, to me, the knock. Their O-line sucks. Now, one thing with the Shanahan offense is it can make average offensive linemen very functional. I don't know if you noticed, Alex Mack is in the Pro Bowl. Like, listen, like the guy enjoyed his career. In no world is Alex Mack now Pro Bowl. I mean, Mac Jones in the Pro Bowl, but Alex Mack can function in this offense.
Oh, I forgot they took the Liam Eichenberg, the guy the Niners liked.
Oh, from Notre Dame.
Yeah.
What's his name from SC stinks.
Who's his defensive coordinator going to be?
It's a hell of a question. He could go just bold and name Kasurik the defensive coordinator and
steal him. Niners. I mean, that would feel like it would hurt worse than this hurts.
Motherfucker, I made you. You can't take my guys. I made you.
I mean, it's one of those where Kyle's like, I will tell them they should hire you as long as you don't do that.
Yeah, you get one guy from my roster, and these 3 people are off limits because he can't take D'Amico. But
Hightower was on the list of guys. Like when there's a expansion draft and you leave a player, every team leaves a few players unprotected.
Well, it would go like this. It'd be like, reports are the McDaniel is zeroing on Chris Kasurik from the Niners staff, and then 24 hours later, reports that Mike McDaniel is now missing from the earth.
Mike Shanahan has volunteered to take over the Dolphins until Mike McDaniel resurfaces.
That would be bad. That's not allowed.
So how much of a loss is it for the Niners, right? I mean, on one hand, it's hard to quantify because his responsibilities are hard to quantify for Kyle.
For us, I think Kyle knows, right?
Yeah. Kyle knows. But part of it would be if he did something like that. That would be devastating, I think, to the 49ers.
Yeah.
Specifically, Kasarik.
Well, I don't, on social media, it felt really big. I thought it was a little overrated, the news, but you also had to put the pieces of the puzzle together. Anthony Lynn being hired, to me, wasn't just about hiring Anthony Lynn, who I thought was the offensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions. Got demoted midseason, and Campbell took over.
Yeah.
But to me, that meant two things. One, you had to, restock the cupboard because I think it was kind of clear to Kyle, we're going to lose McDaniel. And Anthony Lynn is known as a run game specialist. What he really thrived at with Rex Ryan back in like 09 and 10 for the New York Jets when they were fucking good. They had the number one defense. I think they were like the number one rushing offense. He was their rushing game coordinator. I don't love him calling the plays, but he doesn't have to do that. I didn't quite realize that like him and Kyle had known each other for a long time. And Kyle called him like one of his favorite players ever when he used to play for his dad back in the day with like John Elway. But also, I didn't know if that was just purely McDaniel taking off or the one guy Kyle took, if you remember when he was hired or brought with him. Remember the big story when Kyle was hired, like, will he keep Tom Rathman? Tom Rathman is here. And he's like, well, I told Bobby Turner, like, he was a lock to come with me, and Rathman just bounced. But Bobby Turner, and I saw Barrow's tweet, 72 years old. So, I don't know how many years left you have if you're Bobby Turner. He hasn't retired yet, but it could be a double whammy. I don't know what you thought about. That's where my mind went, that it might have been even more about Bobby Turner leaving because Anthony Lynn is a running back coach at heart and / can scheme the run game in this offense, knowing what Kyle and the Shanahan and clearly just a family friend. They say one thing about this group is they're pretty fucking tight knit. This is a pretty tight knit family.
Was assistant head coach part of Anthony Lynn's title?
Yes, it was.
So that was Embry's title, right?
Yes, yeah.
So, I think the Chargers offense, I think Anthony Lynn was in a unique spot year one with Herbert in that Herbert looked good. You normally don't get fired when your quarterback looks good. Your first round quarterback looks really good. As you and I have discussed, his game management left a lot to be desired. They had like 6 games that were just, or the end of a half or the end of games. Like, what is going on?
Special team disasters, I remember.
But he's clearly a good football coach. And I remember watching Hard Knocks, just an impressive guy and a likable guy and clearly a leader, right? So I think he's a great ad. I think the thing you probably lose with McDaniel that's hard to put your finger on, and you and I have talked about, like, who can tell Kyle no? Who was it that told him you're not drafting Mac Jones? Who can tell Kyle no? Mike McDaniel's on the short list, I would imagine, and at the top of the list of people unintimidated by what Kyle might think about what they have to say. And that's probably really valuable, right?
That's healthy, yeah.
Very healthy, yeah, very healthy. Not that Anthony Lynn has a pretty established standing in the NFL, right? These guys, there are guys that have a pretty established. Bobby Slowick's been around him forever. Wes Welker has been around the block. But I would imagine Mike could say some things to Kyle that he doesn't have to apologize for later, And that's really valuable. I mean, it's incredibly valuable. We don't know how to quantify it.
Stop calling toss sweep, you fucking crazy asshole.
That's when Kyle just switches off the headset. But, right? I mean, I don't think Kyle took a lot of other people's play call suggestions. But as we talked about before he ran the Trent Williams third down play against the Rams that they lost a yard on, and they ended up in a 4th and a long 2, Kyle had said on his headset to his offensive staff, guys, what do we like here on fourth down, 4th and short? Maybe he said it before the 2nd down play. That's what Kyle said. So I think that's probably the part that's hard to quantify. And this goes back, I think, to the constant conversation about who you hire. This is why I want my head coach first and foremost. If I can, I'm not going to hire a worse coach just for the sake of hiring an offensive coach. But I do want my head coach more often than not to be the guy who calls the offense. because if your offense is any good, you are losing guys left and right.
Well, it's my main issue. I can't fathom hiring a head coach who is under like 50 years old and going, I'm hiring you because while the study that the Eagles did once upon a time was true, being a coordinator does not determine your success. Because Pat Shurmur, both times he was hired as a head coach, was an awesome coordinator. Remember how good he was with Case Keenum at Minnesota? They went to the NFC Championship. Then he was hired with the Giants, and it was like, oh my God, this guy sucks. And it happens all the time. It feels like it happens a lot with the New York Giants, but it happens on a ton of teams. Defensively, too. I just do not get hiring Uberflus and going, we're hiring you because the Colts were really good at defense. And we think you're a good guy. And then you'd be like, yeah, I'm not going to call defense. It happened with Saleh last year. And then their defense is fucking terrible. It boggles my mind. But Uberflus is a good example. Well, they bring in this Getsy guy from the Packers. Well, what happens if their offense is good and Justin Fields becomes like a borderline Pro Bowl guy in 2 years? I would say Getsy is a 1,000,000% lock to become a head coach, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
And that is the situation basically anywhere.
But it's like, can you hire Getsy over Eberflus? Are you willing to do that? Like the Dolphins were willing to almost hire ahead of the cycle.
It happens on offense. It happens when the defensive coach has the offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
That's where if you just
But what I'm saying is you almost have to hire ahead of the cycle, right? Like,
well, isn't that what Minnesota did with Kevin O'Connell?
Yeah. And it's maybe what the Dolphins did here. And it's, now the thing with the Bears is like, is Eberflus is the guy you're, okay, we'll see.
This is only a conversation with defensive guys because the offensive guy, the moment your offense is good, if D'Amico was an offensive coordinator, if he was an offensive coordinator, he 100% would have been a lock to be a head coach this year.
If Zach Wilson all of a sudden has some incredible year too, they're going to need to find a new offensive coordinator for Zach Wilson, right?
Because you think
Matt LaFleur is going to get a job. He'll get a job.
Does it matter, Mike? I always get those two mixed up.
Mike LaFleur is the head coach of the Packers, right? Or is it Matt LaFleur? Now I'm mixed up.
Yeah, I think Matt.
Matt is the coach of the Packers. Yeah, you're right.
He was coaching today, wasn't he?
He was. It was weird. I thought it was a flashback. I'm like, why am I looking at Matt LaFleur right now? And his incredible
I looked up at one clip and him and Russell, and I'm like, well, he's used to diva quarterbacks. I mean, he can handle this little Pro Bowl relationship pretty well.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't know why I get my LaFleur's mixed up, but I do give the Dolphins credit on if you want an offensive coach to be your coach.
It came down to the two guys that were both offensive play callers.
And honestly, it didn't feel to me like the idea that Kellen plays. Kellen was a lock head coach a year ago. And then it got kind of weird this year in Dallas, right?
Dak was kind of hit or miss down the stretch. If their offense had been more explosive and they beat the Niners, is Kellen getting this job? Is it easier to sell yourself on going, this guy's seen, especially this year for the Niners, what they overcame? Like he can come to an interview pretty like knowing Shanahan's life, right? Everything he does, but then also going like what we went through this year. I know how I've taken all these notes of how Kyle handles these different situations that work, that have won us 4 playoff games the last 3 years. Like I've seen all these scenarios. I've seen it when we're good. I've seen it when we're not good. I've seen us battle back. I actually think he brings a lot more to the table than like Kellen Moore would in an interview on just being able to say what I've seen. And this is where I think he's 38 years old. I'm a big believer that like age is the most overrated thing. Your experience matters. Like Mike McDaniel, for a younger guy, has a lot of experience. Think of all the shit he's seen. He could go like, this one thing that we fucked up, me and Kyle have been talking about forever in the 28-3 loss in the Super Bowl. I had this play for him, and we pushed back, and then we went with another play, and then we thought, like, he's got some pretty unique experiences. When we had RG3 and Kirk Cousins, we thought this. Think of all the things that he could just bring up in an interview for NFL circumstances. When Matt Schaub first got there, we knew he could do something. So me, Kubiak, and Kyle, we built, that's 12 years ago.
Yeah.
He's a very experienced young guy.
I would say his sobriety, in the same way we talked about the Raiders this year through tragic circumstances and difficult circumstances, having 2 team leaders, Darren Waller and Max Crosby, that have been through some real shit in life. I would imagine here you are now walking into, I would say, what is a little bit of a controversial situation in Miami, or at least the Dolphins have controversy to deal with, right? it's not really going to fall on. It's not on Mike McDaniel's desk to deal with whatever comes. But there's just noise out there with the Brian Flores lawsuit. There's noise out there just with Tua. There's noise out there because your team's not as good as people thought you should be, and your quarterback. Like, there's just a lot going on. And here's a guy who's been through like a real life situation.
We got sent to rehab while he was coaching. I mean, that's a pretty big deal. I remember at the Super Bowl when Atlanta went, that was a big story.
Yeah,
they had, Kyle, and I think Dimitrov deserved a lot, like help save his life. I mean, I don't know if he was going to drink himself to death, but just his career was headed the wrong direction. And I actually ended up on a clip I think the Niners had put out maybe a couple years ago of just like 5 questions. He brought it up. He's like, I don't drink. Now, I don't think he really got into the depth of the details of why, but I mean,
I would imagine he did in the interview.
100%. I think it's something he can be very open up and proud about.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is a pretty big moment, I would say, for the 49ers. Back-to-back years, getting 2 guys head coaching jobs with a third that you could argue on paper might be the most, a guy that played in the NFL for a long time, kind of feels a little Vrabel-y, just like DeMeco Ryans is going to be a head coach. That's a fucking lock. Mike McDaniel, to me, was not a lock.
No.
Robert Saleh became that. DeMeco is a lock.
McDaniel might have been somewhat maybe helped by the circumstances, right? Where Miami had a GM, so you're not getting a guy who wants all the power. And then Miami became a little weird. And so maybe you do cut out some of the top candidates.
But who else was in the mix? It felt like Mike was been in the mix before the Flores thing even came out.
Yeah.
Didn't it?
Yeah. But I mean, Flores got fired. Like that in and of itself created an opening where it was kind of an odd opening, right?
It was the shocking firing of the year, right?
I think the other part of it, the other loss, just from a personality standpoint, I think Kyle probably with players at times is a little more loose than sometimes he looks. But clearly McDaniel is just a part of a positive energy. And maybe that's where Anthony Lynn's personality also helps, because Anthony comes off as a guy with just life perspective and, a good feel for what an NFL coaching staff and locker room and player relationships are supposed to be. But clearly Mike was a positive on the coaching staff from a personality standpoint. It was just a unique guy who was, like when you talk about the room that you have, like personalities on anybody's quote unquote teammates, whatever job you have, personalities matter. The people you work with matter.
Well, one thing you would say is with Kyle, he is going to be very susceptible to losing. If the 49ers continue to have success, losing offensive assistants to become head coaches, because they are going to come to him and McVay fast if they keep winning. And if their defense plays well, as it has the last 3 years, he's going to lose defensive coordinators. So he's going to get pillaged on both sides. Look at McVay this year. Is Raheem Morris now kind of like a Saleh? Like he got a couple interviews this year. It feels like he's going to be more in the mix next year. You're going to lose whoever your Kevin O'Connell, your Mike McDaniel is. And then if your defense plays well, and those type guys like physical players, right? I mean, I give McVay credit. Like he's going after Von Miller, Jalen Ramsey. Like the type guy Kyle might have missed, but Javon Kinlaw. We saw him. We're like, I get it. Like they're just going to lose. He's going to get pillaged on both sides. I mean, but it happened to that's just success, right? It happened to Andy for years, losing offensive guys and defensive coordinators.
Well, it's what's crazy about some of these trees, like the Reed, Gruden,
Andy lost special
Holmgren,
teamer too.
Shanahan, like these Niner trees. And who'd Andy lose?
John Harbaugh once upon a time.
Oh, some of these trees. I do think you put enough guys out there that just by the volume of guys that you put out, one of them will get fired and come back to your staff. Some of these staffs, guys never return. Shanahan was good. Holmgren was good. Andy Reid was good. Gruden was good. Mariucci became a head coach, then was like, I'm good. It's incredible how many guys. Normally, one guy gets fired and eventually he's back on your staff or something like that, and you can cycle him through.
It happened with Spagnuolo. Was on his sweet Eagles teams, goes to the Giants, because they had Jim Johnson, and then he kind of cycled back years later, right? And now has been a good defensive coordinator.
That's true.
It's part of when it happens to you young. If you can maintain success as Andy Reid, you are going to just be an open net to like. Would it shock you if Matt Nagy goes back? It's just that's a little quick, but if Kyle does this for 15 years, there's just going to be some cycle guys coming back.
Yeah.
And you would say that, to me, I'd have the Jets circled if that bad boy might not last long.
No. You saying Robert Saleh replaces D'Amico Ryans?
You could also say the history of
49ers
the. You could also say the history of the Dolphins. I mean, if McDaniel lasts more than 3 years, that to me a pretty big upset. Not because he might not be a good coach, just that fucking place is just people go there to get spit out.
This is a fascinating coaching situation. Just the Dolphins now.
Wouldn't you say the division too? Like, I mean, the Bills are a powerhouse and Belichick's just better.
Yeah.
His team is.
Well, can he elevate his quarterback? And who's he picked to be his defensive coordinator? Because that was the one thing you said with Miami. Like, they're going to be in a bunch of games because Brian Flores knows how to coach. Like, he's not replacing some slappy coach.
Well, they
Brian
weren't
Flores
any good
knew
on
how to
offense.
coach.
They were tough and physical and kept games low scoring.
Yep.
Should you just rehire Brian Flores as defensive coordinator?
With a mustache? Ryan Torres has now become his DC.
Ron Mexico?
Ron Mexico? No, what was the one we heard the other day? Bobby Trees.
Bobby Trees.
Robert Woods.
Bobby Trees is a good name.
A real nickname, but it's good. I mean, it goes back. The other thing on Kyle is just it's, player development. It's coach development too. Can you replace your own coaches with guys who speak your language and know how to do what you want? Belichick's philosophy has been, I'll just do everything myself, and then it doesn't hurt when people leave as much.
But one thing you got to give Bill a lot of credit at, I was watching Brian Daboll's introductory press conference, and he's like, my career started in the NFL when Bill hired me in 2000. And he hired Brian Daboll, Josh McDaniels, Brian Flores. Some of the clips, and I started watching Man in the Arena. Brady's like rookie year. I mean, one of the youngest guys on staff is Mangini in the background, who's like a quality control guy. He didn't hire, guys that were already established in the league. He found just 10 Mike McDaniels.
Yeah.
And it'd just be interesting. It's hard to do, but fuck, Bill did it over and over and over again. Now, a lot of them didn't become good head coaches.
But they knew how to work for Bill.
They thrived.
Which is
and
the
he
key.
gave them like legit roles, right? They became coordinators and special teams coordinators. And he just, like, that is going to be the next iteration. Andy did it forever. Sean McDermott, Brett Veaches, these guys that started as the lowest level guy and just kind of built them up. Part of it is you start getting the cream of the crop reaching out to you, right? And Bill had, I wouldn't say it's lucky. They got in on the John Carroll tree. So all those guys were all friends and played with each other, and they just hired, their buddies all just happened to be Brian Daboll, Josh McDaniels, Ziegler, Casario. Like that team just happened to have like 7 guys that all aspired to work in the NFL. I don't know what Kyle's where they come from, but he's got to find it, right? Stanford? I don't know. I mean,
where'd Questy come from? Private finance?
Yeah, they just found him at one of the tall skyscrapers
Morgan Stanley.
in San Francisco. I do think this. When I got lucky to be hired by Andy Reid and just the Eagles, I just got to know their guy that came through Philadelphia very well. I do think from a coaching standpoint, though, people get very aggressive with going, like, clearly a young guy wants in with Bill Belichick. A young guy wants in with Andy Reid. I think a young guy is going to want in with Kyle and McVay. You'd be crazy not to, right? You'd be insane to not be like, hey, 24 years old, I just got done playing at Weber State or Cal Poly. I aspire to be a coach. I'll do the shittiest job. I want in. I'll do whatever it takes.
Yeah. Maybe I just got done playing at Alabama.
Or whatever. Yeah, exactly. But I'm saying if you live on the West Coast and you aspire to be a coach and you're in your early 20s, I would every single day try to meet them in the parking lot. Wouldn't you?
Yeah, I've gotten a few DMs from people. I don't think there's any shortages of people trying to be Kyle Shanahan's right-hand man. I would imagine that I think it's not even West Coast related, right? If you're going to Harvard or Yale.
It's not. It's national because all these guys, Mike McDaniel's got a friend who has a young guy, right? I mean, you all have connections. I'm just saying, like, if you
Kyle Juszczyk has a guy.
But if you were a backup at Stanford that wanted to coach, or you were a backup at like UCLA or USC, you do just have the geography of being able to drive to where they're at, maybe.
Right.
Like, ultimately, Sean McDermott was a PA guy. Brett Veach played at Delaware. Like, they had the geography working for them. You do have geography. Now, the problem is Cal and Stanford. Like, think I'm going to make $20,000 at 22 years old? I'm going to go to Google, make about $250.
Niners still might hire you.
That's true.
Brock still might like you. So, John, before we get on to some more, let's tell the people that this show is brought to you in part by our friends at sleepnumber.com/ham. John likes a real soft Sleep Number bed. He's around a 30, 31, 32. I like my bed a little firmer. My Sleep Number numbers, it's been 60 before. It's at 58 right now. But sleepnumber.com/ham. Get your sleep IQ. Get your sleep score. Get your sleep IQ on, and get ready for 2022. I mean, we're here.
How have you been sleeping lately? I slept Saturday, Sunday, and I'm not a big sleeping guy anymore. Both days up at 9 o'clock, and it was just I feel incredibly refreshed.
You're talking the sleep in. You slept in till 9.
But I went to bed probably like 10, and I just slept right on into 9. I got the best sleep I've gotten in 6 months these last 2 nights. Oh, just on my Sleep Number bed.
You're cutting out that caffeine at
cut out
4
the caffeine
in the afternoon.
I put the phone on the nightstand, and I whenever my hand would try to reach, I'd slap it. I'd say, leave that alone, because you don't want those UV lights, coming to those eyeballs and waking your brain up. It really helps, and you and I have been Sleep Number guys for a long time, and it changes your life, because when you sleep better, you are more productive at whatever you're trying to do during the day. And, we got a lot of young professionals listening to us. So if you're in your 20s and you think you can get by, I'm telling you, better sleep. Just follow Man in the Arena, Tom. Like, sleeping matters. And the better you sleep, and the Sleep Number beds are just absolute game changers.
I'll tell you one little thing that's made a big difference for me. Sounds like old man operation, but a little afternoon walk, especially when you realize you've been inside, you're watching tape all day, grinding the L22, and you're just sitting, just a little, even if it's 15, I mean, if it could be 45, even better, but 15, that's fantastic. Whatever gets you going, shake things up a little bit, helps you be sleepy at night if you get regular exercise. I think having your body ready for sleep, John, is a big part of good sleep.
Okay, discover special offers now for a limited time at your local Sleep Number store. Sleepnumber.com/ham. Sleep Number, proven quality sleep is life-changing sleep. Sleepnumber.com/ham.
Sleepnumber.com/ham. Podcast also brought to you by Indeed. Indeed.com/ham. Indeed.com/ham. It is time to put your Pro Bowl squad together. Okay. If you don't have the right people on the field with the right skills, whether it's breakaway speed, elite playmaking ability, you're going to have a tough time winning. The same goes for your business. Indeed is a fast, simple way to make sure that you are hiring MVPs at Indeed.com/ham. Sign up and get a $75 credit to sponsor your first job post now.
Well, Guy, everyone's looking to hire people right now, and instead of spending hours, and I mean hours, on multiple job sites, hoping to find candidates with the right skills you need, one powerful hiring partner, our friends at Indeed, can do it all. With Instant Match, as soon as you sponsor a post, you get a short list of quality candidates with resumes on Indeed that match your job description, and you can invite them to apply right away. Plus, you only pay for quality applications that meet your must-have requirements. How do you beat that, Guy? How do you beat that?
You don't beat it. You don't. It's a great way to hire.
So starting right now with $75 job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/ham. Offer valid through March 31st. Just go to Indeed.com/ham to claim $75 credit before March 31st. Indeed.com/ham.
Terms and conditions apply. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. You want to let it out again?
Yes. Hightower!
What a shocking development when I woke up out of a very good sleep this morning to the news that Richard Hightower has been hired as the Bears special teams coach, John. What a coup for the Bears. They pulled it off. You got to give them credit. Wow.
Yeah, man. Is this one of the smoothest moves in the history of coaching? Jenga. What would be the movement?
Just Jenga's a good one. Yeah.
It's just
Rubik. What's the one where the Tetris?
The moment that the punt block happened, which is It doesn't, we've tried to figure out a name. It's just one of the more iconic
Punt
plays.
block touchdown.
Punt block touchdown when your offense couldn't score on the road, Green Bay, -5 degrees to beat Aaron Rodgers and the number 1 seeded Packers. It really, the more I've thought about that game, it's helped make like losing the NFC Championship game, a game that was very winnable, easy to stomach. Now, listen, Hightower in a vacuum was god-awful this year. Their special teams was terrible. They were clearly one of the worst units. And does he get credit for the Green Bay game? Of course. But as it turns out, they were playing the worst unit, right? Like, he didn't just fucking outduel Tiger Woods in his prime. He beat a guy that was swinging with one arm, and he beat him. And Hightower deserves credit for that moment. And he also blocked a field goal at the end of the half. Like, it was a great game for him. But I had come to grips with, as fun as the Hightower screaming has it's become a thing, that he was probably going to be back, especially when I guess I had heard today or read today that part of their friendship from the University of Texas is Richard was a walk-on too. So there was like a special bond, these two guys. Anytime you know people, like you and I knew people, we knew each other in your teenage years, there is a bond that it's much harder to get when you meet someone when you're 35 or 45 or 52. That doesn't mean you can't create very strong bonds the older you get. But part of the reason Mike McDaniel and Kyle probably are so close is they've known each other for so long at a young age. And it's just as you get older in certain professions, egos and money and all this other shit comes involved. Like, I understand why Kyle probably likes this guy. He's friends with him. We're all friends with people. And it's why it can be complicated sometimes in certain industries to do business with your friends. Because he was kind of at the point where it's like, is he going to fire him? Because you would say any other place, right? When a coach just hires another coach, and I don't know you beside a coach-coach relationship, he's a fireable coach. He had been here 4 years. It was trending the wrong way, and they were the mark all season long. And for as awesome as the 2 playoff wins and even the NFC Championship was, he almost single-handedly was the reason that they didn't even make it to the dance. Right? It could have easily been Sean Payton. Maybe would have had to retire a week or two later because he would have been coaching in the playoffs. Right?
Yep.
So for them, and the agents run the deal now to get this guy a job. And listen, we don't have the information here, but is it fair to say that Kyle Shanahan was a huge reason this guy got a job? Like in the 90s?
I mean, it feels like Lane Kiffin getting the FAU job because Nick Saban didn't want him on the staff anymore. Right?
Yeah. Feels very Saban-like. Doug Marrone has not been officially hired anywhere, is no longer with Alabama. But they're not going to report Doug Marrone has been fired as the offensive line coach. They don't do that, right?
It's
hell, the Niners didn't even announce John Embry had been fired yet. I haven't seen anywhere. Have you? I mean, it's out there, but
do
the
teams
Niners
generally announce that sort of thing? I don't think they do.
I think teams usually put out, we have a relief. So
thanks for your time.
Yeah, I mean, he'd been there 4 years.
Feels a little weird to me to do that kind of stuff, but maybe they do. I think this is half of the move. The other half of the move is who do you get, right? The other half of the move is what do you do next? But we can talk about that in a moment. I think for the Niners, it felt like he was going to be back because there's no way I'm going to put this guy, quote unquote, on the street if you're Kyle Shanahan. And like, look at it from the other side. There's no world in which the Bears are going, we need a special teams coach. Who do we hire? Let's get Hightower. Now, maybe
he had coached there before.
So, there is the world, right, where Eberflus is like, I don't know anybody. And the Bears go, we got a guy. He's much better than his numbers. He knows he can handle Chicago, from like a specialty. Like it does take a guy maybe who's been in some bad weather to coach special teams in Chicago. I don't know. And we're telling you, the Niners will let us have him. The Niners aren't going to block him. And he'll be good. He'll be fine. He'll be good. He'll be better than his numbers were last year. We can fix that. But yeah, maybe that's the world. But it does feel like Shanahan, because at the end of the day, Kyle could have prevented this if he wanted to prevent it, right? Richard Hightower didn't just become the defensive coordinator of the Bears. He went from special teams coach to special teams coach. So, Kyle can say whatever he wants. Like, we know he could have stopped it if he wanted to stop it.
They fired him, and they didn't have to announce they fired him or / wear it. Like, ultimately, John Embry who kind of went viral. I think the Flores thing was hot and polarizing. Honestly, bothered me a little bit. It's like they asked him to take a 60% pay cut. Yeah, he was a tight end coach making $1.5 fucking million. $1.5 million. That's insane. That's nuts. But then what did they do?
Well, and assistant head coach, right?
But then they used that money. But I'd be like, what the hell is John Embry doing? It's just a title because they were buddies. Like, I don't think, like, I didn't feel the vibe there. Like, what the hell is John Embry doing? Well, then they used him and got Anthony Lynn. Like, if you put them both on the free agent market, people would rather have Anthony Lynn on their coaching staff than John Embry. So they upgraded the assistant head coach with. And listen, I'm not trying to talk shit about tight end coaches. Known a few. It's the easiest position to find a coach. It just is. It's a lot of, like right fielder in Little League. It's where I played. You just throw your shittiest player out there. It's usually where you put your shittiest coach.
Yeah, your shittiest coach, or when you have, I've seen it a lot, I think, in college where it's like, I've got a D-line coach on my staff, and then my buddy who's also a D-line coach just became available, and I got nowhere to put him, so I'm going to make him my tight ends coach to get him on my staff. That happens a lot, too.
It's a stash spot. So
Stash spot. I think there's a rap song called Stash Spot one time.
Probably.
By One Shadow, a small group out of Chicago no one remembers.
Good
Bought
song?
their record on the I don't remember the song. Might not be One Shadow. Bought their tape outside of Wrigley one time. No, Cincinnati. I think they were in Cincinnati. Anyway.
So I mean, we might have to send that tape to.
I still got the record somewhere. One Shadow. It's a good album.
But
circa like 2003.
Part of this though is the hard part, and you watch the Montana documentary, you listen to the Belichick book. I would say that those guys were known. When you say most ruthless head coaches ever who were also successful, it would be Walsh and Belichick, right? They feel like they're in their own category of being like kind of cutthroat. And, Kyle hadn't really had to do that yet. Like he was kind of at a moment where kind of had some cutthroat moves. Now, because he was friends, like maybe he didn't give a shit about John Embry, he was not going to throw just fucking Hightower just out to fend for himself.
Well, he might have had to. Well, he might not have had. Right, he might have had to like what he didn't want to do was demote him and give him a pay cut to make him. If the alternative was no one else is hiring Hightower, was he not going to keep him on the staff in some capacity?
Belichick's demoted guys over the years, right? Saban has.
Yeah, I've seen college. You've seen it all the time. A guy gets promoted from. Kyle Whittingham cycled through 15 offensive coordinators. Some of them are still on his staff. They just got promoted and demoted again.
Yeah.
Well, he's a really good O-line coach. Why would I fire him from being an OC if no one else is going to hire him as an OC? I'll just make him my own line coach again.
Kind of genius.
Like, it doesn't always have to end badly, right? So
sometimes it's time for a change.
Maybe that was the alternative. Well, I mean, when you're 27th in special teams, no one's talked about special teams DVOA until this year. But
to me, it wasn't. That number didn't do it justice because I bet some of the other teams that were in the mix beside the Packers were just shitty teams, and you just watch shitty teams play. They do everything shitty. It's like the Niners were playing in these important games, and because of Jimmy Garoppolo was so tight, his units were constantly fucking them. And it was clearly they had isolated him and were attacking him relentlessly. And there was a moment, part of the reasons the Cowboys came back is because they ran one of the easiest fakes we've ever seen. He's like, well, we called it punt fake. Well, you called it punt fake. Josh Norman ran back like he was taking off to Laredo, Texas. It made no sense. He's like, it's on me. No, well, yeah. What are you guys coaching? Part of Belichick's whole thing is like you're coaching it or allowing it to happen. And that simply means like you are going over this stuff in practice. Like you went over punt safe in practice. Everyone has their role. And I think the thing that was so jarring with Hightower, either the Niners players were morons. I think it's pretty clear the Niners have a lot of smart guys. Or you are not communicating what they should do. And it's just basic stuff. And hopefully we'll never have talked about special teams this negatively ever again because it kind of bores me. But just catching the ball on the 5-yard line, having no one over in certain places, the effort being kind of shitty. It was all around. And then all the trick plays just getting hit left and right were outrageous. Honestly, if it wasn't for the Green Bay game, that might have been the worst special teams year for a competitive team I've ever seen. Now, Green Bay fans would be like, well, you didn't watch our guy. And I'd be like, yeah, you're probably right.
Well, the report is that they like Bisaccia, that the Packers like Bisaccia. Rich Bisaccia, former Raiders head coach. And we know that the Giants former head coaches out there and available. Joe Judge. Now, I think, like special teams is one of those things that becomes highlighted only when it's bad. Bisaccia got himself attention this year because of, the job he did as a head coach, more so than the job he did as a special teams coach with the Raiders. And Bay Area teams, college and pro, I know the Raiders aren't a Bay Area team anymore, tend to cycle through coaches quite a bit. Like coaches clearly like that. I got a spot in Marin. I'd love to stay there if I could. So I don't know what boat Bisaccia is in. And the Packers would obviously be, working for the Packers is no joke. But I do think part of what we're talking about here, remember what Dante Whitner told us when we asked him about special teams? One of the things he said was he went back to what we all remember from Jim Harbaugh's tenure, which is the best players played on special teams. Not just the best receiver was also a returner, but your best linebackers were cover guys. There's Bowman, there's Willis, right? Those guys played on special teams. The Niners don't do that. And I go back to, we've gone back to it several times.
Where did that guy learn that from, right? Brad Seeley probably learned it from Belichick because they played their top guys forever.
And Belichick, it's right. Belichick does it too. And I go back.
But Seeley worked for him, right? I mean, Seeley learned special teams from Bill Belichick. Like that was Jim Harbaugh's special teams coach.
I think part of this is Shanahan. I said at the beginning of the season, like Kyle, when they drafted Mitch Wishnowsky, said loud and clear, basically, I don't care about special teams. He said, I hope I don't have to watch punting for the next 10 years because he watched some punting to get ready for the draft, and they draft Wishnowsky. I think part of this is maybe an opportunity for Shanahan to maybe just reinvest a little bit in special teams in his own mind. Because what do you always say, right? You're either coaching it or allowing it to happen. So this is partly on Kyle to fix, and we'll see if he does.
Well, to me, it's a double whammy. I think 100% he just needs, whether he hires Rich, he needs to get more involved. And when I say more involved, like emphasize it to the team. Have the team know, like if you play for New England, to your core, if you fuck up on special teams, you get cut. And we saw it this year. No one cared about anything. There were no repercussions. And two, I even think it's bigger than Kyle. I think this is an organizational moment. You have more money than the Green Bay Packers. You have an unlimited amount of cash. Think about what Rich, I was watching, I had the Pro Bowl on TV too. They were interviewing a punter who had a big mustache. Well, it's the Raiders guy. The Raiders extended a punter and a kicker this year who a couple years ago we had never heard of. Think of what Rich did under his watch with the Raiders. He left them in his tenure, obviously helped them this year get to the playoffs, but with a star punter and a star kicker, which because most people, when it comes to punters and kickers, unless it's this San Diego State guy or the occasional draft pick like Wisnowski, a lot of guys become stars as undrafted free agents. Guys, you even if they're coming from Alabama or whatever, you don't even know about them until they get to your NFL team. Rich left the Raiders with two guys making high-level money relative to their positions in the NFL. So I know this guy can specifically, because ultimately, it might be a little easier because it's a warmer weather team. How long can Robbie kick for? But like I'd say, how long do you want to be paying $5-6 million for a kicker? This guy can make an undrafted kicker a legit player. And this guy can find me a punter who's not making much money, a legit player.
But I mean, Richard Hightower doesn't get any credit for Robbie Gould. So why are we giving Rich Bisaccia credit for Daniel Carlson? Just because Daniel Carlson was more of an unknown, was not an established veteran? Like, aren't we talking about with Richard Hightower? We're not talking about the kicker and the punter. We're talking about coverage and returns.
But I'm saying that like he can immediately help you save money in this area. Like, Robbie
Maybe,
Gould was a well-established guy before Richard Hightower ever showed up in the NFL. My point though is like Rich brings more to the table than just obviously the cover kicks, like just big picture. You're gonna start paying people big money. I can't be paying my punter and kicker a combined $7-8 million. I need to find some undrafted free agents. I know for a fact Richard can identify these, Rich Bisaccia can identify these guys.
I think you're probably right, but if I was going to play devil's advocate, which I'm kind of inclined to do here, I'd say I think the special teams coaches, his real value comes in coverage and return scheme versus, not getting out coached in those spots.
Well, 100%.
Versus the production of the kicker, who tends to be a guy that works on his own and has his own personal kicking coach and all that kind of stuff, and probably produces independent of the special teams coach. More so than cover. I mean, to me, when I'm talking special teams, the first thing that comes to mind is, are you able to cover and can you get returns? Do you know how to hit your trick plays? That kind of thing.
Well, but before we even, I would agree there that ultimately the Niners, if they really want this guy, which they should, they'd be crazy not to, and Kyle's worked with him before, so they've known each other for 15 years, you can pay him more money than the Packers can.
Well, my point is, like, if we're talking about Richard Hightower DVOA, the Giants were 11th. The Raiders were 21st in special teams DVOA this last year.
Yeah, but I mean, most people, I don't even know what that means. I just
no. But my point is, like, again, is Rich Bisaccia better than Joe Judge at special teams coaching?
Well, I mean, do you want Joe Judge?
Not really. No,
I don't either.
I don't want anybody starting any fights in my office.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Joe Judge.
But, like, I'm just saying the idea that Rich Bisaccia is like some unicorn special teams coach.
I do think he's widely considered, him and the Andy's guy Tobe, in the league for 20 plus years of being one of the better guys. A little like Rod Marinelli, the defensive line coach, is widely considered the best defensive. On a given year, his unit might not be top 10 in sacks or pressures, but it's just like, why, Tiger Woods has a down year. Again, harder to me. A lot of stuff's out of your control as a special teams coach, wouldn't you say? I would say more than an offensive or defensive coordinator, you do get the scraps. I give him a lot of credit. This is where I can truly judge him. He took two guys you'd never heard of and made them max punter and kicker. Like, I give him credit on that one. I just do, because he was one of John's big hires when John got the job. It was like, I got to have this guy. Him, and then he hired Marinelli. Like, these guys are old. They know what they're doing. And he's just a high-level guy. Like, I just like having high-level guys on my staff.
Yeah, I mean, that's my point, is like the number one thing that's made Rich Bisaccia attractive this year is just we got to see him operate in a really
But I'd say
situation.
even before that, I think his just universal approval rating in the NFL as a special teams coach was extremely high, which I say would be a little rare for that position. There's like 3 or 4 guys that stand
I think
out.
part of it that's rare, right, is the good guys. There's no real, because they don't get promoted by and large to anything else, they don't really move around that much. The really good ones.
Well, he had basically just been with Gruden and Jason Garrett right before.
There's really no reason. Where are they going?
Well, they just pay you a lot to just be your special teams coach.
Don't go to college. You're not like, I'll go to college and be a special teams coach.
Well, one thing that's going viral right now, viral would be strong, but I just see a lot of people bitching and moaning about, like, why won't Russell Westbrook change? Why won't he play more defense? Why won't he start? You see, last night there was a 3-point shot in the corner. The whole place screamed, no! And he shot it. It just went viral on my timeline this morning. And this guy retweeted, he's like, I've been watching the NBA for 20 years. I've never seen a home arena scream for a guy not to shoot. Part of it is, like, I think it's fair to assume Kyle has some Russell Westbrook in him. He's not just all of a sudden going to – it's easy to be like, why doesn't he just care more about special teams? He might truly not give a fuck and never will, which, if that's going to be his one weakness, I can live with it. Then you got to spend, 4-year, $8 million on a special teams coach. And if you think Rich is the best one, do it. If you think Joe Judge is the best one, I think Joe, little risky, because part of his success, you would say, in New England, like, Bill is a special teams coach kind of at heart too. So, right. And it just felt like the Giants were just full of special team type players. Like, that was their whole roster.
The one thing I'd say, easy to put starters on your special teams when no one's impressed with your starters. The one thing I'd say for Kyle, I do understand the hesitance to put special teams players or to put starters on special teams when you've had the injury problems that the 49ers have had in recent years. So I do get that. I do that aspect.
I'm not even a huge proponent.
Not putting Aziz Al-Shire on coverage. I get.
Yeah, I'm not some like guy banging the wall of like, Juszczyk's got to play all the teams. Can we sneak Kittle in? Like, no, I'm the opposite. I like putting my shitty players in there that do not play offense or defense, that just dress for special teams, and having my special teams guy get the most out of him. Why not? Try to find like your Matthew Slater?
Yeah, I mean, I also think they got to figure out who their returner. That'd be also at the top of the list for their new guy. It's pick a return. Can we pick a returner, please?
Well, you got to. I mean, I saw that they're already going to be in the mix. Cordell Patterson's a free agent. A lot of people are going to want him, right?
2 Debos on one team.
Well, he already said he wants to stay in Atlanta. Why would they not want him back?
I don't think it makes – the Niners probably couldn't afford him.
Well, they don't have –
or wouldn't make sense.
They don't have the luxury of giving a guy like that $6-7 million.
No.
What they need to do is use like find in the 4th round, just get a return guy who can also cover. Just get a universal special teams guy. That's what they need to do. To me, that would be one of the things if I'm John Lynch telling my scouts, we need to find that guy. But I can't find that guy ultimately, one guy that plays a huge role in the draft guy is the special teams coach, because you don't draft special teams type players without him having an impact. So in fairness to Kyle saying that he didn't give a shit about Wisnowski's kicks, I think a lot of coaches not named Bill Belichick would.
Yeah, he just said, I don't ever want to do that again.
Yeah. Well, he's going to have to, because Wisnowski.
Well, was Richard Hightower's pick Wisnowski? Because Wisnowski's not, we would say, not a weapon in the way that you would want your punter to be a weapon.
I think he's gotten worse.
Feels like his leg is.
Wasn't he a powerful guy? I thought that was the whole thing. He was like a powerful guy.
Yeah.
But my point is, like, if Wisnowski, if you're going to move off him, and you just say Robbie is just getting up there in age, now he's still playing well, and kicker does feel like you could probably do that a little bit longer.
Yeah.
But do they want to be paying a kicker $5-6 million?
Well, here's the thing. I mean, with Trey Lance, we'll see what it looks like. But I think if you're Kyle Shanahan, you have to prepare yourself to be in some amount of close football games again, where special teams matters. The goal is that you're not playing in close games every week, obviously, but you do have to prepare like special teams is going to really matter this year. You know, who knows how many interceptions does Trey Lance throw? I'm not saying he's going to throw a bunch. I'm just saying a young quarterback is an unknown. So you got to button down the thing that was your biggest weakness this year.
Well, Robbie paying him $4 million this year and his dead cap's 5.5. But as someone, a couple people DM me when we talked about Tannehill. You know, a lot of these guys' dead cap often gets cut in half if he is traded, though you still, like, Tannehill's dead cap wouldn't be 57, it'd be like 30 or 28, but that's still an astronomical number. So, maybe the 5.5, if you could trade Robbie Gould, goes down to like 2. I don't know.
I'll tell you, I'm not, when you've got a good play, I'm not all that interested.
Robbie Gould's on the team,
kicker.
but he is an unrestricted free agent. Robbie Gould's going to be 40 years old this year. 40. So he might just be rich enough he can just retire, right? Not this year. He'll play the $4 million. I'm just saying he's a free agent. Do you expect if Robbie has another good year, 2023, 41 years old, he's kicking in the NFL?
Feels unlikely.
Wait, you think he would retire at 41?
I mean, like, how many 42-year-old kickers are there? Just
but if he plays at this level, you'd say he'd keep going. He's playing how many?
Unless he just wants to quit and go to Chicago, hang with his family.
So you think he'd keep playing, as you're saying?
No. I'm saying I would just generally bet 41, 42-year-olds retire from the sport. That's what I'm saying. Like, it could be his last year.
It is the one position where Vinatieri, who's
sure
better.
And
you
on this team, on this team, it's like, man, you got a chance to win a championship, right?
But I'd also say this: like, if I was, let's say, they have a good year, Robbie has a good year, and you and I are his representatives / money guys, and he's like, I'm thinking of retiring. I'm like, well, hey, Robbie, you got 40 more years on this world to do whatever you want. The Dolphins or the Jets, they're offering you $5 million to kick. Like this, just once you get out in the real world, I'll promise you there aren't just many $5 million if like this anymore. If you can get that,
replace AJ Feely,
or just do whatever. Yeah. Who knows? There might be a team that's just willing to be like, get him if he's good, still give him $4 million. But that will not be the Niners, is my point, right?
Yeah.
This is Robbie Gould's.
Well, the guy they hired now he'll be in charge of finding that next guy.
Yeah.
Before we go on, John, let's tell the people about BetterHelp. BetterHelp.com/HamPod. BetterHelp.com/HamPod. Well, right now you get started today and get 10% off your first month when you use the code HamPod. Well, actually, you don't have to use it when you go to BetterHelp.com/HamPod. The promo code HamPod will automatically be applied.
Yep, guy. Listen, we get annual checkups on so many things, right? Our body.
Supposed to.
You're supposed to. I'm not good at it either. Our teeth. I actually just went to the dentist a couple weeks ago. We do chores regularly, some of us, to avoid big messes. But I think going to therapy in our mentals, as Marshawn would say, is something that we're not very good at keeping up with. And that's where BetterHelp.com/HamPod comes in, because is something preventing you from achieving your goals? What interferes with your happiness? BetterHelp will assess your needs and match you with your own licensed professional therapist. But as we've said before in this podcast, it's all over online. And if you don't want to see face-to-face, you don't even have to turn on the camera. But you do not have to leave your house. You do not have to sit in a waiting room. That can be very uncomfortable in these situations. I get it. I've sat in those waiting rooms before. BetterHelp.com/HamPod.
Customized online therapy. That's what it is. So is there video? Yes. Is there phone? Yes. Live chat sessions with your therapist? Yes. So like John said, you don't have to see anybody on camera if you don't want to. And it's much more affordable than in-person therapy. You can start communicating with your therapist in under 48 hours. You invest in everything else. Invest in your mind. BetterHelp.com/HamPod. You get 10% off the first month. BetterHelp.com/HamPod. Anything you share is confidential. It's convenient. It's professional. It's affordable. You can go to the website. Just go to the website right now, BetterHelp.com/HamPod. New testimonials are posted daily on the website. 10% off your first month. BetterHelp.com/HamPod. BetterHelp.com/HamPod.
Barros just had a tweet, guy, that because you and I were talking before, and I'm on so many text threads of how does this comp picks work? And I'm like, honestly, I don't even get it. I just know you don't get an unlimited amount. Like if you get 7 minorities get hired in the same year, you don't get 14 picks. And as you said, they traded their Saleh pick, right, in the Miami Dolphins trade.
One of their Saleh pick, because they had a Saleh pick this year and a Martin Mayhew, remember, pick in 23.
So this year in 22, this is what Barros tweeted. They have their own second-round pick, right? They don't have a first-round pick because the Dolphins have that. They have their own second-round pick, which is pretty shitty, pick 61. They have their own third, which is 93. And then they have a comp pick with this McDaniel. So they don't have a Saleh or Mayhew pick, but like you said, the Mayhew pick is in 23 because it got pushed back. You can't double dip.
So their own second, their own third. They traded the Saleh. This year's Saleh.
They traded Saleh, yeah.
But they get a McDaniel. They have their own fourth, their own fifth, and some seventh comps. They'll have a Mayhew pick in 23. When's their other? Do they get to double up a McDaniel pick in 23? Because you get 2 picks.
That's where if you did it like last year, I would say that you probably don't. We'll have to do some more details on that 3 comp max. I would say the McDaniel thing isn't anything. It's not nothing, right? You get an extra 3rd-round pick. Now their draft feels a little less shitty. They have a second and 2 threes. Because at least those 3s are at the end, but you could package pick 61 in the comp McDaniels to maybe get up to early 3 if you really like a player. Maybe get a corner. I'm already thinking about
Yeah, I mean, Wagner said confirming via league sources 49ers get compensatory picks in 2022 and 2023. Thanks to Kirk on the stream for pasting that in there.
So they might have multiple comps next year with Mayhew and McDaniel. Because it got spread out. I remember when the Saleh McDaniel, because everyone's like, "Do we have 8 comp picks coming?" I was like,
right.
"No, it doesn't work that way."
Yeah. And well, GMs are GMs 2 picks or one pick? Was Mayhew one pick just because
I thought a GM and a head coach are the same compensation.
So Mayhew was 1 pick just because they couldn't double up on 4 with.
Yeah, because that's what we had thought. So you get 2 threes and then 2 threes next year, and that's not the way it happens.
McDaniels. Yeah, there's a lot of.
What do you think about taking both 3s and the 2 and going up to round 1?
Both comp picks.
I wouldn't do that.
And your 2.
You're drafting a
for what?
Yeah,
another lineman. I'd take another shot at a lineman.
Just draft players.
A corner. You just drafted 2 last year, but not in the first.
Yeah, usually the sweet corners go relatively high.
Yeah, in the top 15.
Or you just get very lucky, like find Sherman in the 5th.
Well, I mean, Patrick Surtain was there to be had in the 2nd. You're at the end of the 2nd round here, right?
Patrick Surtain?
Wasn't it Patrick Surtain that they traded back and could have had in the 2nd round? Who was the corner they traded back and could have had?
Didn't Surtain go in the top 10 last year? Trey Lance?
Who was this? Who was the 2nd round current corner? That's also somebody's son.
No, it's the dude I was with the Eagles,
Asante Samuel. Yeah, you could have had Asante Samuel's son.
Yeah.
Thank you, Julio. Just all these good number 2s and seconds and thirds and juniors and.
Well, everyone wants to play wide receiver, so the only guys playing corners are when their pops play corner. They're like, I'm telling you.
Like, Dad, why do I have to play corner? I'm like, son, you're going to be the 2nd guy on their board.
Yeah,
Genius,
and also
really. There's 15 receivers and 2 corners.
Check out the hierarchy of payments. Corners get paid. And you don't really have to tackle. Just kind of dive at their feet.
No one gets you on your case for a drop.
No, you don't even think you can catch anyway. You
Yeah,
play
we'll have
receiver,
to-
you better catch the ball.
We'll have to get a more thorough breakdown of all those compensatory picks. I guess does your so you lose
To me, given that they're end of the third, it's a little not relevant. I would say it'd be a really big talking point if they were like seconds. But the third is like it's sweet. It's an addition, but it's not like game changing. But it's not nothing.
No, I think it's just more throws of the dartboard, you know. Or I was watching cornhole on I watched a little cornhole on Saturday night.
I just hate that game. I don't know why.
I love that game, and it just happened to be on. I remember I think a basketball game I was watching might have ended or something. Oh,
I don't hate watching. I don't love playing.
You don't like the game? I like the game. UCLA and ASU went to like 2 OTs. I watched that game. It ended. I'm like, oh, there's cornhole. Like, what is? I wasn't watching because I wanted to watch. I just watched because like, what the hell is like? How is this on television? I swear to God, they're like anybody can compete. This is in Vegas. They're in like the finals. They're like Bethany. It was 2 women playing 2 women. Like Bethany, she's a manager at a Taco Bell, and then she just picked the game up a year ago, and now she's in the Now she's in the tournament. I'm like, oh my God, you can't do that in any other sport. But one thing, if you play cornhole or beanbag toss, you usually get 3 bags. They've got like 5 or 6
I'd call it activity.
Well, I did actually turn to listen. I'm like, isn't it crazy? This is on ESPN. None of these competitors do anything. Like, there's no weightlifting. There's no, they're not running up the hill, Jerry Rice's hill. They're not doing any of that stuff. They're just working on they're just working on their toss.
Are they drinking when they're playing?
Not drinking. They're not drinking, but they do the broadcasters do say things like, "Oh, she's going to try and cut it in there." To try and loop it around like there's the other team's bags in front of the hole. She's going to try and cut it in. She has a natural cut. That was said. She has a natural cut. Anyway, I think it just gives you more throw.
Are the most boards that we play kind of look universal size, the one they're using?
Yeah, the distance, it might be a little further distance. It was hard to tell, but
part of it I hate. I'm terrible at that game. That's why I really hate it.
But my point ultimately is that it does just give you more throws to the dartboard, where it does feel like you're fifth. I mean, it's like, who are you getting? Are you getting Trey Sermon?
But at the time, like Trey Sermon was like, oh, they got this dude from Oklahoma and Ohio State.
100%. I'm just saying, like, these are 50-50 picks. So just the more you're right. Ideally, they're 50.
I mean, they drafted a guard in the second round that was a scout team starter all season, right?
That's a win or a loss.
That's a fucking huge L right now.
Yeah, so 50-50 on a good day, these picks. These picks probably aren't really 50-50, right? They're like 30-70, 35-65.
They also potentially have another addition coming, which we'll talk about over the next month, named James Garoppolo, right? I don't know where he's.
I don't know. Schefter said during the Pro Bowl that everyone's just assuming it's a guarantee he's getting traded. It's like, okay, Adam.
He said that.
Literally said that. Everyone's assuming
we're not
it's
playing
just
this
a
game
lock.
Again.
No, I actually thought like topic today, and then I said no. We will not insult our listeners and our viewers with that topic.
Yeah, I mean they're basically doing the same playbook as last year, though it made more sense. This one, like, part of the topic was last year.
Could be back
because part of the topic was last year, right? They will not budge off their first round asking spot. So they basically were like, "Yeah, you can buy my condo, guy, but it's $1.8 million." It's like, well, no one's gonna fucking pay that. Well, the next year it's like, "Hey, John, you want to leave?" It's like, "Well, cut that bad boy by a third. Take it." Like, that's kind of what it feels like the Niners. I will be stunned if there's a tangible or even report from Adam, not conjecture of like they are saying it's a second or nothing. Like, we're open to listening. I think that, to me, it's like, call. We're having a Jimmy Garoppolo dinner at the Combine on Wednesday night in Kyle's room. Doors open. We'll provide the food. If you're interested, swing on by. That's what it feels like this year. Buffet.
Bids
from we used to get this Jewish deli in Indy. These Reuben sandwiches delivered that Howie and Andy loved, and they were fucking pretty good. He's like, we will have the Reubens lined up.
God, that sounds so good.
It gets delivered about 6:30. Come on through. They'll make them here, actually. They'll make them in the hotel room.
God, that sounds so good.
I've never been. The Reuben bread can be hit or miss.
Oh, you're talking about the rye? You're not a big fan of the rye?
Or excuse me, the rye. I mean, if the sandwich is so good, I don't love the rye taste, really. But I know it goes on the sandwich, and if it's done right, I can live with it. But I'd rather just have like sourdough or something.
I actually don't love the sauerkraut. I prefer like a roast beef, like a really good roast beef. Give me some Russian dressing, some coleslaw.
You like the rye bread?
No, I mean the true Reuben is like a stack of meat, rye bread, no dressing, and I'm like, I don't want like it's dry, like it's just I need a little more. But in theory, the Reuben is just gets me in the mood for a deli sandwich, and that's really where my head's always at.
Yeah.
So
you eat one of those, I mean, you could be butt sitting in a chair for a while. You're not moving.
No, that's an instant nap.
I mean, that's about it. That's a
snack. Other thing about a Reuben,
that's a snack for Andy at the fucking combine.
A Reuben, no matter how expensive the sandwiches are, a Reuben's always set like $19.75. Like, well, it's 3/4 a pound of meat, so we're gonna start. It's not turkey, so we got to start there. Aaron Banks is taking over for Tomlinson. Niners need to get younger on the O-line.
I agree with this.
What's
Seeds the flavor
seeds on the rye bread.
It just throws
give me the rye, your old bag.
What was it called? Miller's Deli.
Oh, Miller's Deli. R.I.P.
Go under.
Polk. Yeah, just turned into like it turned into a Mexican / pizza place.
Do you think Fieri has done a lot for a lot of just independent spots
Has
over
to
America?
have. Yeah.
Because I never would have gone to that place if I hadn't seen him there.
Diners, drive-ins, and dives. Anyone who lived in San Francisco between like whatever years those were.
Have you ever used it when you've been in random cities? Just typed in.
I don't know that I have. No. But you see places. You watch the show. You're like, oh, that place looks cool. See if I can track that place down.
I did in Philadelphia one time. I just, in the off season, would just hit a spot like a month or something.
Yeah. From the show?
Well, you could just type in, right? He could just list the area and the different spots he's hit. This was 10 years ago, 9 years ago. I bet now it's probably pretty easy by region, Just, hey, I'm in fucking, Reno. Boom. He'd been at 2 spots.
Yeah.
Because I never watch it and think, like, I wouldn't eat that. I always
Never.
think, like, I would eat that right now.
I've always thought, like, you pay to be on the show, you think? I mean, it's pretty good advertising. He never goes like, not that good.
Might have been kind of organic at the beginning. I would imagine it'd be worth it to pay to be on the show. Maybe they don't even need to. I don't know.
Yeah. And if you're him...
how many people do you think reach out to them? A lot.
A million. So you probably got to a point where you could do that. Who watched the Pro Bowl today? The annual tradition of complaining about the Pro Bowl. It looked like everyone agreed to two-hand touch that game, though. I don't know if you saw any of the highlights. Anybody
I had it
listening or watching?
I had it on my second television. But
I thought it looked good.
Been pretty similar for a couple years now.
Yeah, I mean, every year it's like, hey, it's never been this bad. And I think it's been unwatchable for a long time. I don't know if you saw somebody posted a photo of like Matt Millen's special face mask for when he played the game with a broken jaw back in 19 whatever year. So that world has changed. Yeah.
I was a little surprised that they kicked off at Vegas at noon. Like I just had it on a second TV. I needed something to watch, and the Pro Bowl was on. I was like, wait, these guys are in Vegas, which kind of crazy. I did watch a little bit of the skills. It's cold in Vegas right now. If I'm these guys, like Miami's warm.
I actually like that Mac Jones. Did you see the Mac Jones skill thing where players were like defending different holes? Did you see that game?
No, I didn't. No.
So it was like there was like this big board. It had different size holes in it. And a player from the other team, it was like Quandre Diggs or one of the Diggs brothers, one of the 12 Diggses that are at the Pro Bowl, is like trying to like play goalie basically. And Mac is trying to guess which way they're going to go. And he tries to throw it in a hole and that guy can block it, which is actually kind of dangerous for their hands. But good game. Seemed cool.
I saw one like like precision passing. Russell dominated it. He's like boom, boom, boom.
Did
boom.
Brady not go?
No. Listen, I'm not, because the game is such a joke, I'm not going to make that big a deal of it, but kind of a joke that Mac Jones is in it. I mean, it's just like, once you get to that level, I can't take your game seriously. But there are enough other players, like when you just have the game on, there is like Debo and Justin Jefferson and all the sweet guys running around too, so it's hard to totally shit on the game, but like Mac Jones is there because Josh Allen was like, yeah, I'm injured, I'm out. I saw him tweet that like 2 weeks ago, and then he's fucking playing golf. And I don't blame him, but that's I mean, Josh Allen would have been easily one of the biggest stars there. He's like, I'm injured, need to rehab. And then he's slamming beers with Keith Mitchell on hole 7.
He did a jersey swap with Keith Mitchell.
That's a pretty good. If you are the player, it's pretty sweet to get paired with him.
Yeah,
he's terrible.
Hell yeah,
It'd be fun to be friend. Because he'd be like, "Hey Keith, you in town? Come to the game, right? I'll leave some tickets for you."
Absolutely, like Huey Lewis.
Yeah, exactly.
Let me put him in a song. For those of you who watch the Montana doc, it's fantastic. I finished it on Saturday night.
They were the background of
whatever that's Hip to Be Square.
Hit to Be Square.
I don't know a lot about, but it was pretty cool.
Huey Lewis is talented, man.
How about did you
Lewis
get to Belichick talking about Huey Lewis?
I don't think I did. No.
Niners are going for the three-peat. Giants, Niners, NFC Championship game.
I'm just after the back-to-back, and they're just they're in Hawaii, getting drunk with Huey, just having the fucking time of their lives.
Huey's like the live concert. But then there's a clip of Belichick. He's like, you knew it was going to be a bad day when you saw Huey Lewis and the Bad News do the anthem, and just doesn't crack a smile at all.
Was he making fun of them?
Kinda. And like he was just like, basically saying we hated them, we hated their song, we thought the whole thing was soft. It was like he didn't say that, but that's kind of the
I mean, it was a pretty big deal. I mean, we were 4, 5, 6 years old, but like when Huey, even some of the players, like you knew it was a big game when Huey'd be out there for the anthem. It was like Huey was just
really in hindsight. How did he not do the Candlestick farewell?
I was thinking that too. Like, where was Huey Lewis that night?
Did he like declare his loyalty to Joe? It's like Joe told me not to show, so I'm not going to show. To Candlestick.
Wasn't Joe there that night though?
Was he?
I thought he showed for that. I thought, but I could be wrong.
No. Joe was at like a Tulane football game that night. Remember?
Oh yeah, like said he wouldn't come. They
like, scheduling conflict.
Didn't Eddie beg him and say he pay him?
Or maybe not that night. Maybe it was the night before. It couldn't have been a Sunday night, but
that game was Monday night. Yeah, it was like
night.
Over the weekend. He just said he couldn't make it, and Eddie was like begging him. The story came out. I wish Huey would have played. Hit to Be Square. Those guys were the background. How cool was that? It was incredible. Ronnie, Dwight, and Joe.
Joe's like, the song got better when I started lip syncing.
I had a few pops, and I watched about every Huey Lewis. Like Huey was very, very, in American Psycho, Christian Bale drops that, and I don't know. I mean, I've never listened to Huey or whatever. I actually earned a lot of respect for him in that documentary, and then watching him, like he was like they were like an a cappella group. Like
I think it's hard.
A lot of stuff.
Yeah, I think it's hard to understand like music out of its era. Like stuff looks cheesy or stuff is like, how did it? It's like really get like. I think it's hard to like appreciate music. Not all music, obviously, but some music outside of its era. I think
my dad loved Elvis more than any human you'll ever meet. And if you think about it, like if you're 18 years old in the late 60s or mid 60s when Elvis is just a rock star, a superstar, you like him forever. Just like people that we like when we were young, you just like forever. Now you can get acquired taste, but how could I ever Huey at the time with Montana? Can you imagine how big of a deal they were around here? Right? Like, if you just ask Niner fans that are 56 years old, Huey Lewis, like, oh, Montana, yeah, we love Huey Lewis. But you just like them.
A lot of people in the chat said Huey is not doing well health-wise or has a vocal issue, a medical issue.
No, what happened is I actually stumbled upon this. He started losing his hearing, and when you lose your hearing, it messes with everything. But this, in 2014 or 13, when the Candlestick thing happened, I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure that happened the last several years, but I know he's in bad shape. The article that I Googled. Because I had the same thought. I was like, God, that would have been sweet. Even though Boyz II Men, I'm not going to complain.
No, that was also sweet. We were there. It was great.
They were missing a member.
They were. We've had some good. We were at the Giants game. John and I were at a Giants. Who was it? Giants Nats or was it a?
Yeah, I think it was like the best of 5 first
NLDS.
Bryce hit a home run where we were
that's
standing.
Right.
They went like 700 feet.
We didn't have seats, right? We were kind of standing room only. We were just walking around, fans, not media style. And we just ended up on the club level, just standing at the top level. And the next thing you know, they're like, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome to lead us in Can't Stop Believing. He's Steve Perry. And we look down and he's a row in front of us, and they just put him on the video screen, and we're just standing behind Steve Perry as he sings "Can't Stop Believing."
You don't have that. You don't have that video, do you?
It was like 4 iPhones ago. I gotta go.
Too.
It was saved, but I don't know where it went. I gotta look for it. That's a good.
That is one moment that I think about. It'll just pop into my head maybe once every other month. that I'll be like, how did we not document that moment? He was right, guy. We could have grabbed his hair the whole game, and then all of a sudden he just starts singing "Don't Stop Believing." That you don't have to be from the Bay Area. It's one of the fucking most memorable songs in the history of songs, and the fucking guy is just rocking. And he flipped a switch, and it had to feel like it was 1975 when he was rocking, didn't it? Do you remember the passion
incredible.
That guy had?
Oh my God, he was
got
like yelling
so
at everybody else to get going.
It was sweet.
That would have. I got a hunt for that video.
That thing would have got us so many retweets into that. Imagine that thing.
If we had only periscoped it, that was pre-periscope.
That was cool.
Speaking of cool, how about this? One of the all-time great shots. For those of you who are listening to the podcast, I'll just tell you, it's Harold Varner from 100 feet for eagle to win the Saudi International. Here we go.
Is that Tommy Fleetwood?
Fleetwood. The caddy hug was also a highlight.
Do you know what I'm sucker about when a big moment happens and the guy that does it has someone jump, like he doesn't jump into someone's arms?
Yeah.
Someone jumps and goes little kid style on their body.
Kelly Stafford style. Yep.
Yeah, what that caddy did. Now, Harold is, running back, a wide back type body. That caddy jump that was pretty cool.
Harold was what he needed to birdie that hole to force a playoff with Bubba Watson. Bubba had started the day 6 shots back.
2 putts, he's going to extras.
2 putts from 100 is no gimme.
Yeah, no gimme
right?
at all. No
and
gimme
he
at all.
Eagles he putts this from off the green, right? That's not the green. I mean the green.
Yeah, he's on the. I saw a background like an overhead. He's on the fringe for sure.
And he's wearing his Jordans. And he's wearing his East Carolina, right? He's
East Carolina, yeah.
Purple. And the other thing I was just doing Sabrina about this shot, which is just insane, because he wins what, 900,000 to win the thing.
I mean, I saw he's got to pay pretty big money.
I assumed it'd be more, but I think I read 900,000. But here's the other thing: it might put him in the Masters. You got to be top 50 in the world golf rankings to get into the Masters on March 28th is the day that they used for the Masters. Top 50 in the world golf rankings.
Automatic qualifier.
Yeah. He was ranked like 99th, I think, coming into the week.
Yeah.
And that win puts him in the top 45. So he's never won on the PGA Tour, but a world golf event does help him get into the Masters.
Well, I mean, he's got 45 days to hold on to your life.
Yeah, it's a long. I mean, do you just stop playing? You can't do that, right?
Well, I just think there's too many events. There's like Riviera. There's the Waste Management. How do you got to?
Oh yeah, we got Waste Management, and then Genesis is right after that, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Tiger going to be there?
I would imagine, don't you think?
I would think so. I mean, he already played with Charlie.
It is the year that was a pretty crazy moment that morning when people thought, like, is Tiger Woods die in this car accident?
Yeah,
there are just. This goes back to your music thing. There are just things in life that one thing in the Brady doc, they talk about 9/11. It's like, it'd be hard to describe to like a 15-year-old kid like that morning and that impact, right? I remember being a kid when Columbine happened at Holmes Junior High, and we all went out to the middle of the quad, and then we all got sent home. And there are just different events when you think people die or someone does die, that it's just that moment. Tigers had several of them, but that one and the Elin one in 2009. This one, I think people thought there was like, is he dead? Is Tiger Woods dead? And then you saw the pictures from TMZ. You're like, oh my fucking God, he might be dead.
And then on top of that, it was like, is his career over? Then there was the question about, has he, and I hate saying this out loud, but was this a substance issue again, something that we thought maybe he'd conquered, right?
Yeah.
Like there was just a lot going on there, even once he was alive.
We had just seen him 2 nights.
And the injury, again, like there are injuries that are just devastating, awful injuries. And we thought maybe he had suffered that.
Well, do you remember the couple days before I had a big bet on Tony Finau and Homa beat him in the extra holes? But Tiger had come on with Nance, and remember how like weird he looked, and people
Yeah,
were like,
I
"What
do.
is up with Tiger?" Remember, he looked terrible, looked bloated, and kind of his eyes. I think it's still kind of a meme of Tiger's face, with him just with Nance, and people were like, he is not looking good right now.
Yeah.
It was like he ain't close to playing.
Mr. Superfly on the stream says, "Remember when Kobe died? That was fucking brutal." Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
I mean, just over 2 years ago, which is crazy. See, they put a statue up of he and Gigi at the site.
When I was in LA, we were hoping to go to the sweet places in the Orange County, but I guess Larry's buddy wasn't there, so we had to just, hike it up toward Magic Mountain and just play this other country club. And you go through the hills. We were driving through, and you realize, like, if it was foggy, those fucking hills are huge, like where he was kind of helicoptering through. I don't have a great feel for just the LA layout. I haven't spent much time there in the last decade. I remember when I was driving through scouting, it feels like it's much easier. Again, maybe we're biased. Just understand up here. It's just bigger down there. Just all the different towns, exactly where they are, who's north and south of what. Don't you feel like most people, even if you're from Southern California, you got a pretty good idea, like Oakland, San Francisco, Sacramento, kind of
Feels like Southern
layout?
California, maybe just humongous.
That's part of it.
People
Like
always explaining to me
quadruple
where,
size.
yeah,
Do you feel like you have a good layout of like where Calabasas is to where Manhattan
No
Beach
clue.
is to where?
never know.
s-
But people
you
down
s-
there always,
Yeah, they know it like the back of their hand.
that's that SNL sketch about the highways, the Californians.
Yeah,
So
Kobe. Fuck.
Super Bowl week, John.
Yeah.
Get a little underwhelmed.
Oh yeah.
I wonder
Doesn't really feel like it.
do you think that's because? Do you think everybody feels that way? I mean, I think the Burrow storyline, second year.
You lose momentum with each week? Part of it, it'll pick back up. I do think the Bengals, the brand, just it does feel a little like, meh.
Yeah.
Once the game starts, it'll be fine. But it doesn't feel like I'm having many Super Bowl conversations with people right now.
Did you want to talk about Trey? We haven't talked about our Trey discussion. Save that for the next show, for the next pod. I think you're right. I made a note. I kind of forgot about it.
Yeah, I think that's a good.
We ended up going down the third round compensatory tunnel, and
Good Sunday night pod with no NFL.
yeah. But thanks to everybody for hanging. I mean, we're keeping rolling. So thanks for rolling with us. I do think one thing this week. I think some attention has to be given to the possibility that the Bengals win, in case they win. But that's for later in the week.
Yeah, I mean, the Brady thing. I mean, part of the I think his biggest Super Bowl really was the first one. They were 14-point underdogs. I don't even think is it even humanly possible to have a 14-point underdog in the Super Bowl again in our life. That feels it's probably not going to happen. Because how would a team, like let's say the Eagles, well, if the Eagles would have rattled off, beating the Bucks, beating the Rams, beating the Niners, you would be like, fuck, they're hot as shit. I mean, they would not be 14-point underdog to the Rams, right? Or
It's pretty.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, part of that, right, was the Rams were just offensive. Like you need almost that, like a team that is historic offensively, right?
Well,
the
Giants were 13 points. I think I got them at maybe 12.5.
I mean, that was
against
the greatest team ever, and they were 9-7.
Does
think
feel
about that. So that was the
greatest
Patriots
team ever.
What's that?
Now, it does feel like not as likely as it used to be. I don't know why I think that, but
That team was the greatest team ever?
no, I'm just saying, like, you think we'll just see over the next 10 years, like, is this the greatest team ever? It just doesn't feel like it's likely.
No.
I don't know.
But I mean, I think what you just described illustrates your point of how hard it is to get a 14-point favorite. That was the greatest team ever. We thought if they win the Super Bowl, that's how we would have thought about the Patriots. And then the Giants were 9-7. I actually saw a bartender with a Harambe tattoo on her back yesterday.
I do remember that's a solid tattoo.
Well, remember what's his name from the Bengals said it. We're doing it for Harambe. Did he say tell it?
Hubbard. I think he's been
Sam
telling.
Hubbard.
I think he's been telling everyone that.
Do it for Harambe.
I did not understand why everyone loved the Panthers. I didn't get that. And then when you and I were like in the media world downtown, I just remember seeing all their guys fucking around. And I was like, I'm betting against this team. And I did, and I won a lot of money. But that was kind of crazy looking back, partly because everyone thought Peyton was shot, and he was. But you and I had just been doing the Raiders post game for back-to-back years, so I had gone to both the Denver games and seen them live and being like, I haven't been around the NFL this long at the time, probably like 5 years, but this is their defense. I just remember was incredible, and people I knew on the Raiders staff were like, bro, every fucking position, every single guy they got is a Pro Bowler, and they added DeMarcus Ware. I was like, their defense alone could win this game, and that's literally what happened. Their defensive line in that game was Von Miller, Hall of Famer, DeMarcus Ware, probably going to go to the Hall of Fame. Then they had Malik Jackson and Wolf. It was like all four guys. Malik Jackson and Wolf both got like $70 million contracts, and the other two guys were legends. That was their defensive line. It was like, what? And remember, no-fly zone? It was like all their corners were sweet. Their safeties, TJ Ward, I think it was like pre-Will Smith concussion. They were allowed to kill you. So it was like they can cover and they can knock you out. Linebackers were like Danny Trevathan and Brandon Marshall. And even their offense, while Peyton was shot, C.J. Anderson was good. They had the one tight end basketball player who was sweet for a minute, Julius Peppers or Julius Thompson or Julius something.
Thomas?
Julius Thomas. R.I.P. Demarius, who was
I was going to say, I was trying to remember.
They had those two guys were badasses. Emmanuel Sanders. They were just their team. I understand when Peyton was in his prime. I wonder if Peyton would tell you over beers, man to man. That's those couple years those were the best teams I've ever been on. Right? He didn't have the defenses weren't that good in Indy.
I mean, no, they had a year. That might have been a luck year though. Bob Sanders.
Yeah, a couple good pass rushers, but just top to bottom, that defense.
Well, I mean, Mathis.
Peyton won an MVP there, so their offense was awesome too.
Aqib, did you say Aqib Talib?
Aqib, Chris Harris, and Roby.
Wolf, Ware. You said Ware. And Roby. Yeah.
They were sweet.
Ali makes the correction. 0-7 Giants were the 0-7 Giants were 10-6. The 11 Giants were the 9-7. The 10-6 Giants were the ones that beat the greatest Patriots.
But I think the 07 Giants, the 10-6 team, and the team in 11, I think they were both the 6th seed.
Do you know? Do you know Cam Newton's line from the Super Bowl? Which, by the way, 24-10. That in my mind, that Super Bowl was like 32-7. I remember that game as a bigger blowout than it was. You know Cam Newton's line in that game? 18 of 41 for 265 and a pick.
Well, remember the Broncos couldn't score. So
Peyton's line 13 of 23 for 141 and a pick. So no passing touchdowns in the game.
Where the game always felt on Denver's side is Carolina couldn't move the ball. So while they only were up like 7-10 points, Carolina could not move the ball. Remember the fumble? And Cam got crushed. Like, bro, you didn't even really dive for it.
Yeah.
And remember after the game, there was
was that like near the goal line, or was that?
I thought that was
just
like
late.
midfield.
No, but it was late in the game, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. People were like, "Oh, he's making a business decision in the Super Bowl." Remember, it was kind of like right by there, and he's like,
"All right, thanks for hanging, everybody."
Breaking news:
Huh?
Kyle Shanahan has agreed with Kyle Shanahan to become his next offensive coordinator.
Is that true? Kyle's named himself the OC. Get a raise.
Fog City News Group just tweeted.
Oh, I saw that. That's actually a good tweet because that's the photo of Kyle and the photo of Kyle.
Yeah,
that was actually a very good. Let me see if I can grab that. Did somebody tag us in that? How'd you see that?
Probably.
I just came across it as well, but that's all right. Go Google it yourself. You're already on the internet. As I saw somebody just say to somebody else in my mentions on Twitter, Google it, bro. I mean, you're on the internet already. Some dude asked me how come the Niners get a compensatory pick for Mike McDaniel, and somebody in the thread replied, "Just Google it, bro. You're on the internet already." Well, that's a great line.
That is a good line.
All right. Thanks for hanging, everybody.